Alright, welcome to lesson 3.4a, multiplying and dividing fractions. As you probably guessed, this is not the voice of Mr. Peterson. This is Mr. Bruce in for Mr. Peterson. Fear not, Mr. Peterson is doing fine. He has not, in fact, been abducted by aliens or zombified. He is most likely working slavishly away on making future lesson plans to keep up with your guys' insatiable appetite for math. Alright, so let's get into this. This is about multiplying and dividing fractions. You guys have probably covered some of this in 6th grade, but it's probably been a while. Now, if you're looking at these problems and you think, hey, no problem, I've got this, feel free to work through them, skip ahead to the end, and check your answers. If you can do the problems on this review, you should have no problems with the stuff in your homework or the tests. Some of it's a little more involved, but that's so you guys can get a good example here of how to work through some of this stuff. Okay, for the rest of us, this would be a good review, good practice. Hopefully I can show you guys a couple of tips to make this a little bit easier. I think you're going to find that multiplying and dividing fractions is actually quite a bit easier than adding and subtracting. Okay, so let's dive in here. Multiplying fractions. 3 steps. We're going to multiply across the tops, that being the numerators. Let me fix my pen here. Multiply across the tops. The numbers on top of the fraction bar are the numerators. Next, we're going to multiply across the bottom. The numbers across the bottom of the fraction bar, those numbers are the denominators. Okay, and that looks like this. We've got 2 fractions here. Numerator on top, denominator on bottom. Another fraction, numerator top, denominator on bottom. So we're going to multiply the 2 numbers across the top. That's going to give us a new fraction on top, a new numerator, and then we're going to multiply the numbers across the bottom, this guy and this guy. Okay, that'll give us our new fraction. The third part is we need to simplify our fraction if needed. Okay, and I like to simplify as early as I can. You can simplify at any point, but I recommend doing it as early as you see the opportunity. Because if I can simplify the numbers early, that means I've got smaller numbers to deal with, and it's going to be much easier to see at the end. If I can work with small numbers, I'm less likely to make a mistake as well. Okay? Alright, so dividing is actually pretty simple. All we're going to do is we're going to flip the second fraction upside down, and then we're going to follow the steps for multiplication. So flip and then multiply. Simple as that. Alright. Let's work through our first example here. Common fraction. Okay, I've got 3/4 divided by or multiplied by 5/6. Okay, these parentheses means it's multiplication. So our first step is we're going to multiply the numerators. Let's multiply the numbers across the top. So 3 times 5 equals 15. Then we multiply across the top, across the bottom, our denominators. 4 times 6. 4 times 6 equals 24. Okay. Now, we've got a fraction that we can simplify. If you look at 15 and 24, 3 goes into both of those numbers. Okay, so if I divide 15 divided by 3, so I'm going to make a little divided sign, a little slash. 15 divided by 3 equals 5. 24 divided by 3 equals 8. And that's our simplified fraction. Okay, now, I like to simplify as early as possible. So I'm going to do the same thing here, same problem, but I'm going to simplify at the beginning. Okay, I've got a 3 on top and a 6 on the bottom. We can treat that like its own fraction that can be simplified, okay? So 3 and 6 are both divisible by 3. So if I divide 3 by 3 and 6 by 3, now I've got 1 on top and 2 on the bottom. Okay, so in this case, 1 times 5 equals 5. 4 times 2 equals 6. Oops, sorry, equals 8. So, same fraction, but I got to simplify it up front. Alright, now this is a pretty basic, easy problem. Didn't matter that much, but when they get bigger, you're going to notice that simplifying in the beginning makes it a lot easier. Okay, you can still do it at the end, but you're going to be working with bigger numbers. Okay. Alright, division problem. So, our steps for division are we want to flip the second fraction. We're going to flip that thing upside down, so it becomes 7 over 9 times 12 over 11. Okay? Now, you just follow the same steps for multiplication. Now, I could multiply it across the top, but that's going to give me a big number. That will work. That's fine. but I'm going to go ahead and reduce it. Again, I see I've got a 9 on the bottom and a 12 on top. I'm going to treat that like one fraction. I'm going to go ahead and reduce that now. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Alright, so I've got 7 times 4 equals 28, and 3 times 11 equals 33. Now that's kind of a big fraction, but that's as far as we can simplify it down. If I just work this across 7 times 12 and 9 times 11, I would have gotten 84 over 99. Okay? Now that's a correct fraction, but it can be simplified. It's just kind of hard to recognize what goes into that. Okay? You can divide that down, those numbers by 3, and you're going to get this answer right here. Okay? So simplify whenever you see it. You can simplify at the end. It's just a little more work. Alright, moving on to mixed numbers. Okay, unlike addition, we can't just ignore these whole numbers out front and then deal with them at the end. We got to deal with them up front. So this is a place where we need to turn those into improper fractions. Okay, so how do we do that? We've got 2 and 5/8. How do we do that as an improper fraction? Well, we're going to multiply the 8 times the 2, and then we're going to add the 5. Okay, so 8 times 2 is 16. Get rid of that. Eight times 2 is 16 plus 5. That gives us a 21 on top. So I've got 21 over 8. 5 times 7 equals 35 plus 2 equals 37 over 5. Okay, so now I'm dealing with improper fractions, and I can go ahead and do my steps for multiplication. Okay, I know these look like big ugly fractions, and they are, but unfortunately I can't simplify them down. There's no number that goes into the top or the bottom. I've got odd numbers on top, so obviously we can't divide by 2, and there's really nothing else I can do with this. I'm just going to have to multiply across the top. 21 times 32, and that's going to give me 777. Multiply across the bottom, our denominators, 8 times 5 equals 40. Okay, and unfortunately that's the best I can do. That's the fraction simplified down as much as I can get it. Sometimes it just works out that way. Okay, moving on to a division problem with a mixed number. Alright, let's change this mixed number into an improper fraction. I'm going to take the 9 times 4 equals 36, add 2, and that's going to give me 38 over 9. Okay, and our next fraction, take 5 times 3 is 15, plus 1 is 16 over 3. Okay, now I'm going to flip my second fraction, and that's going to become multiplication. Alright, so I've got 38 over 9. I'm going to flip this guy around, and that's going to become 3 over 16. Alright, now here's a beautiful place. I see a couple of ways I can simplify this down. If I multiply this across the top, I'm going to get a big ugly number that I don't want. Well, I can deal with it, but it's kind of a pain in the neck, so I'm going to go ahead and simplify it right off the bat. 3 and 9, both of those are divisible by 3, so 3 divided by 3 is 1, 9 divided by 3 is 3. Okay, I've simplified one part of the fraction. I'm left with 2 even numbers on the top and the bottom. So if I've got even numbers, I know I can at least divide by 2. Okay, so I'm going to go do that now. 16 divided by 2 is 8. 38 divided by 2 is 19. So I'm left with 19 times 1 and 3 times 8. And that's going to give me 19 over 24. Alright, and 19 over 24 is as far as that simplifies down. Alright, now let's move on to fractions and whole numbers. So the trick with these are, whole numbers can be written as fractions as well. Okay, all we have to do is put a 1 under it, because 8 divided by 1 is still 8. Okay, so now I've got 2 fractions to work with. Now back to dealing with whole numbers. Okay, want to turn that into an improper fraction. So 3 and 2/7 becomes 7 times 3 is 21, plus 2 is 23. So now I've got 8 over 1 times 23 over 7. Okay, and it looks like in that case, there's nothing I can simplify that down. I'm just going to have to go ahead through my normal multiplication steps. So I multiply across the top. 8 times 23 is 184. And 1 times 7 is 7. That's as far as that thing reduces. Okay, again, kind of a big ugly fraction, but that's how it works sometimes. All right, moving on. Division. We're going to turn our 4 into a 4 over 1, our whole number, and then we're going to turn our other fraction into an improper fraction. Okay, so 1 and 5/6 is going to become 6 times 1 is 6, plus 5 is 11. So now I've got 4 over 1 divided by 11 over 6. Okay, now let's make this multiplication. I'm going to flip my second fraction upside down, and that becomes 4 over 1 times 6 over 11. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom. So 4 times 6 equals 24, and 1 times 11 equals 11. So my final answer is 24 over 11. Can't reduce that down. It's as far as it goes. All right, go ahead and try this problems. When you feel like you've got it, hit the video again, and we'll work through them. All right, problem number 1 of the try this. Okay, we've got a simple multiplication problem. 2/3 times 4/5. Okay, so I don't really see any place to simplify, so let's just go into our steps here. Multiply across the top, we've got 2 times 4 equals 8. 3 times 5 equals 15. And that's as far as you can reduce it down, so that's our answer right there. Alright, problem number 2, a little more complicated. We've got 5 and 1/4 divided by 2 and 7/8. Alright, so first let's put these into improper fractions. So we've got 4 times 5. 4 times 5 equals 20. Plus 1 is 21. So 21 over 4 divided by 2 and 7/8. So 2 and 7/8 is an improper fraction. 8 times 2 is 16. Plus 7 is 23 over 8. Okay, now we got to change that from a division problem into a multiplication problem. So we're going to flip around our second fraction, and that becomes 21 over 4 times 8 over 23. All right, now looking at this fraction, I see a place I can simplify, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I've got a 4 on the bottom and an 8 on the top. They're both even numbers. We know we can divide them by 2, but hey, we can divide a little more than that. 4 goes into 8, so let's just divide the top and bottom by 4. Okay, 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So now our new fractions are 21 over 1 times 2 over 23. If we multiply across the top, we've got multiply across the top, we've got 21 times 2 equals 42. Multiply across the bottom, we've got 1 times 23. And there we are, simplified down. All right, last one. We've got a whole number in there. So we've got 3. Let's turn that into a fraction by dividing 3 by 1. Now we've got 4 and 5/6. Let's turn that into an improper fraction. So 4 times 6 equals equals 24. Plus 5 equals 29. So our new equation looks like this. 3 over 1 divided by 29 over 6. Okay. Now, I can't simplify yet. I need to flip my fraction around. Since it's division, let's turn this into multiplication. Let's flip second fraction upside down. That gives us 3 over 1 times 6 over 29. Okay, still don't see any place to simplify, so we're just going to power on through this. I'm going to multiply across the top our numerators. So 3 times 6 equals 18. Multiply across the bottom. Denominators, 1 times 29 equals 29. So our final answer is 18 over 29. That doesn't simplify down, so that's as far as we go. Okay, hopefully you guys found that useful. Again, follow those simple steps. Multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom, simplify. Division, only thing you need to do is flip that second fraction. So hopefully you find that a little easier than doing addition and subtraction. If you have any questions, feel free to track me down in class and we can work through some more of these problems. Thanks, and see you again.